MAGA cannot be ignored.
This kills me to say, but I actually admire Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, and Matt Gaetz.
What the hell did you just say?
Okay, easy now. I admire them because they're exactly as advertised and haven't changed a bit in the last 8 years. Which is to say they're pathetic, loathsome creatures whom I despise with every fiber of my being. But hey, at least they're not Marco Rubio.
And we begin with breaking news. President-elect Donald Trump is expected to name Senator Marco Rubio as his nominee for Secretary of State.
Now, that's not big news. And weirdly, even people like Adam Kinzinger said Trump could have done worse. But dude, that's a really low bar. If Marco Rubio has a spine or an ounce of integrity, it's hidden better than Melania's immigration papers.
There is definitely more to this story.
Because there was a time when we thought Marco Rubio was the real thing, standing up to Donnie Diapers, before Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger and other never-Trumpers. Remember this?
You compared Donald Trump to a third-world dictator yesterday in an interview with the New York Times. How so?
Well, I don't know about a dictator. I said a third-world strongman. He's running for president, so no matter what, he won't be a dictator unless our republic completely crumbles, which I don't anticipate it will.
I want to be a dictator.
But yeah, here's what happens in many countries around the world. You have a leader that emerges and basically says, don't put your faith in yourselves, don't put your faith in society, put your faith in me. I'm a strong leader, and I'm going to make things better all by myself. This is very typical. You see it in the third world. You see it a lot in Latin America for decades. It's basically the argument he's making that he single-handedly is going to turn the country around. We've never been that kind of country. We have a president. The president is an American citizen who serves for a period of time, constrained by the constitutions and the powers vested in that office. The president works for the people, not the people for the president. And if you listen to the way he describes himself and what he's going to do, he's going to single-handedly do this and do that without regard for whether it's legal or not. Look, I think people are going to have to make up their mind. I can tell you this, no matter what happens in this election, for years to come, there are many people on the right, in the media, and voters at large that are going to be having to explain and justify how they fell into this trap of supporting Donald Trump, because this is not going to end well one way or the other.
But then something happened to Marco, and it was simple. He was beat down by Trump and never recovered, and that made him unique among the tribe of tiny fingers cuckolds. Marco realized early that Trump was his daddy, and so he capitulated to possibly the worst person in the world, and without a doubt the worst president in history. So what's happened to Marco? Well, the same thing that happened to 70 million Americans who voted for Trump. They compromised their principles because they're lazy shithole citizens of what was once a great idea. And Marco's fall from grace revealed to voters that when it came to battling Trump one-on-one,
looking for going forward, there it is, right hand!
He was way out of his league.
I have a policy question for you, sir.
Let's see if he answers it.
I will. Don't worry about it, Marco. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, little Marco. I will.
All right, well, let's hear Big Don.
Donald. Don't worry about it, Don't worry about it, little Marco.
Gentlemen, gentlemen.
You ought to show up.
Gentlemen, you got to do better than this.
This guy has the number one.
Mr. Trump, may I ask you, Mr. Trump, I'd like to ask you a policy question. Your proposed tax cut.
Marco was simply not prepared for Trump's incessant insanity and tried to take the high road. But there's no high road with Trump. Trump beat him senseless. Rubio thought he had the moxie to stand up to man titties, but that made about as much sense as bringing a hooker home to meet mom.
Hey, Mr. Trump, drop your pants.
And here's where Marco fell off the bus. While Trump's whole life has been dick jokes with his racist business buddies, Rubio quotes Bible verses in his Twitter feed. He didn't have a chance.
He's always calling me Little Marco. And I'll admit, the guy, he's taller than me. He's like 6'2", which is why I don't understand why his hands are the size of someone who's 5'2". Have you seen his hands? They're like this. And you know what they say about men with small hands? You can't trust them.
He said I had small hands. Actually, I'm 6'3", not 6'2", but he said I had small hands. They're not small, are they? I never heard that one before. I've always had people say, Donald, you have the most beautiful hands. Right? He hit my hands. Nobody has ever hit my hands. I've never heard of this one. Look at those hands. Are they small hands? And he referred to my hands. If they're small, something else must be small. I guarantee you there's no problem. I guarantee it.
Parents watching last night, kids watching too. You and Donald Trump have traded personal insults in recent days, and Trump responding last night to your comments about the size of his hands, and without going any further, this is a morning show. You have young children. Do you regret where this has gone?
Look, I regret the way the campaign has become, absolutely, because Donald Trump for the last year has made it one of the most vulgar spectacles in American political history.
And hey, I'm not naive. This happens to both parties. Dems slammed Obama in 2008 and Kamala slammed Biden in 2020. But what makes this different was the sophomoric and petty style of Donald Trump, his racist comments and his treatment of women.
Whether the women like it or not.
And Trump, even before his recent cognitive decline, wasn't very bright. But Tiny Fingers knew how to act like a 12-year-old, and he tapped into the gaggle of the most deplorable, dim-witted, monosyllabic humps in U.S. history. And the Republican Party had no idea how to respond.
This isn't their Republican Party anymore!
The party actually became three parties. The MAGA Junior High Club of Dairy Queen, Boebert, and Gates, who were in from the go, attaching their futures to this dotard. Then there were the Cheneys and the Kinzigers, who were on board until 2020, that is until Trump tried to overthrow the election.
There will come a day when Donald Trump is gone, but your dishonor will remain.
But Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz were the most embarrassing moments in American political history as they sold their souls for power and money. Trump mocked Cruz's wife and father, saying she was a pig and his father killed JFK. Now that might seem worse than Rubio's dissent, but I don't think so. Marco Rubio had a compelling tale. He was a Cuban American whose parents were a maid and a bartender, and he rose to dizzying heights before realizing the truth. Donald Trump owned him.
If he builds the wall the way he built Trump Towers, he'll be using illegal immigrant labor to do it. The second...
So cute. Such a cute soundbite. But here's the guy.
Now, right there, you can see Marco's problem.
He'll be using illegal immigrant labor to do it.
He says illegal immigrant labor, which sounds like he's trying to be PC, and that kind of makes sense. He's a Latino, and he's talking about Latinos. But Trump is like the guy who would fart and crop dust a funeral procession. Tiny Fingers would never say illegal immigrant labor. He says illegals and goes from there.
They're poisoning the blood of our country.
So why did Rubio change? Well, he didn't change. He was always weak. After Trump won in 2016, Marco stopped trashing him and instead congratulated him. And today he's set to be the next Secretary of State. And ironically, he's got the goods. But does he have the spine? I mean, he's smarter than Trump, but that's hardly a compliment. The question is, does a man who sold his soul to cuddle a convicted felon, rapist, and traitor have the stones to stand up to Putin, Xi, Kim Jong-un, and the Saudis when he couldn't stand up to this guy? So Rubio has to live with this. He's backing a man who was promised to deport 11 million Latinos, pull out of NATO, close the Department of Education, and establish a national religion.
If you don't like our religion, then we don't want you in our country.
And while Rubio is smiling today, how will it feel to rub elbows with Stephen Miller, Dairy Queen, and the Trump boys every day?
You know, cocaine news! Donald Trump Jr.'s on cocaine.
Will it be worth it, Marco? Or will it be one more thing you live to regret?
Damn right.
This is not a normal election.
Whether the women like it or not.
Suck my fat one.
Who's with me? Yes!
Tick-tock, mother. They're eating the dogs.
This isn't their Republican Party anymore.
Trust me.
Shut the fuck up, Darren.
Who's with me? Oh, yeah, the lie.
Indictable.
Out of sheer morbid curiosity, I'm allowing this freak show to continue.
I don't want to talk about this stuff.
Am I wrong?
Yes! Tick-tock, mother.
You're in a lot of trouble, Donnie.
I think he's crazy.
I'm Chip Franklin.